Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of TBR. I'm George Binns, and this evening we're continuing our series of discussions on the women of WOAMTEC. And to help us further understand the organization, we have with us this evening Suzanne Naudin, and she's in the graphic arts business. And we're going to talk a lot about how do you make a magazine for the Super Bowl. Welcome, Suzanne.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's nice to be here.
Yeah.
I think the timing is perfect for me to talk about 10 years of my life that I loved designing the NFL, the official Super Bowl magazines.
Yeah.
And I'm sure people will be interested.
You've got a spread of them here that, and there's one of the Super Bowl players, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, these are spreads. Each one of these that you'll see revolving are different spreads that I've pulled from different magazines over the 10 years that I worked there.
Yeah.
I started in 2003, which was the season of it, but and Super Bowl 37 was played in February. And in those days, it was 17 weeks of the actual week-to-week stuff, and then it was the wild card playoffs, divisional playoffs, then the championship games.
Well, how did you get started in this business?
You know, honestly, the business itself was, I went to art school, went to Philadelphia College of Art, and it was one of those careers which I caught the wave when design was really something everybody was eager to have in terms of branding, logo design, brochure design, updating the existing look that they had, creating a new look if they wanted one. And I never really had to go job hunting in a very difficult way. I was very lucky. This is in the 70s, you know, things were very different then. When I moved to Boston in 1983, I came up here for a great job, and I was in a packaging graphic design business. And I did a lot of logo design, packaging, and that led me to other different design studios throughout the city.
You were in that business. Who did you work for?
Well, one of them was Gregory Fasella Associates, which in today's time, he has come and gone. But it was at Kenmore Square. It was in Back Bay, Newbury area, Newbury Street, and I lived in Brookline. I had the life of a woman in her 20s commuting, and then I went to work for Phillips Design Group, and that was in the South End by the dry dock area, which is where the Falcon Pier, which today is very different looking.
How big are these outfits?
Oh my goodness, some range from 20 to 8. Now, the bigger corporate world, which I've also worked in, for example, like a Fidelity, like the financial industry, State Street Global Advisors, Fidelity Investments, those are bigger companies, of course, and they have design departments within their companies.
Yeah.
And then there's the world, like this company here was just 12 people. We had outside satellite salespeople, but internally, right here in Lynn, which is where the design, publishing design firm was located, we were 12 people.
That's kind of interesting how a company in Lynn gets the job to do the...
Well, it's the weirdest story, but it happened before my time. Because you're right, most of the design work for sports comes from New York City. That's absolutely true. And back in the 60s, Harold Zimmern, who is the he's passed away now, but he was the owner of H.O. Harold is his first name, H and the O middle initial. And so he started designing the U.S. Open Tennis Championship magazines, the big U.S. Open that takes place in New York area. And just one sports thing led to another. They got the football college, Harvard football team program to design. And that got them into the world of football. And then again, just over time, the networking of the way life is. I mean, this company was a heart and soul of a lot of passion. And the NFL was looking for a design firm to design the programs.
Yeah.
And so I was not working for the company at the time, and they hired me through networking, my computer guy, the man who takes care of servicing my computer, and also design studios in Boston, because this is all built up of years of relationships.
Yeah.
He recommended me for the job to be interviewed for H.O. Zimmern. So I went in August. It was really just to work on, at the time, for the U.S. Open Tennis Tournament, the magazine for that. And then the football thing was led into it, and I stayed there as a freelancer for It's 4.5 months of designing a magazine, which is a 264-page magazine, which is full of good stories and lots of photography, lots of bright color headlines. Anyway, I ended up staying. That's what happened.
Well, how do you differentiate reporting, which I would imagine there's a lot of stories in here of reporter goes out and interviews one of the players and comes back with a story. And how do you turn that into a magazine that people want to look at?
It's very different in that way. It sounds like it's that way, but in the beginning of the summer, in June, or even the whole world of the business end starts happening.
Yeah.
And the stories are figured out. They're approved by the NFL. There's a roster put together, how many pages they want to allow for the stories, how many pages they want to allow for, let's say, the Super Bowl week, which is the week before the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
How many pages they want to allow for the roster, which is, not the roster, the scouting report, which is the 2 teams that go and play at the Super Bowl. They have to figure that out in advance. So they farm the stories out in the summer. And by September, the professionals, the writers in the field of football, they start submitting their stories based on whatever that subject matter is for that magazine. Mm-hmm. Then my editor, John, who's the best ever, he would take the stories and edit them down to fit the number of pages we had figured out for the magazine. It could be a spread and 4 pages. It could be 2 spreads and 2 pages. It could be 1 page and then it goes into other single pages.
What's a spread?
A spread is that, a right and a left. That is, you open up a magazine and you see a spread. This is a spread. This is a spread in this particular case because this Super Bowl took place in Miami, and it was Super Bowl 41. And it's hosting, they were the hosts of the Super Bowl. So this is an example of a spread. Now, if you switch to, let's say, something like this, here is a page. Oh, I have to show you this way. Here's a page. So that's what the difference is. That's a spread. Every feature story, every important story, you want to have a spread. It's the way you start out with the juiciness of something. Because the other important thing is who you're sharing your page with. The advertisers are very important. They pay for the magazine.
Oh, yeah.
And an ad in the Super Bowl back, we're talking 12 years ago, was $60,000 a page. And they really are the most important people. So as ads would come in, especially towards the end of the season, when you get towards the championship games, the divisional playoffs, as the ads start coming in, we start losing pages. So I would have to many times, what used to be like 2 spreads or like a spread and 4 pages, I would have to downsize to be less number of pages to accommodate a magazine ad, I should say.
Yeah.
So it never really was something the stories would come in September, and then I would start laying it out. I would, for example, lay out a feature story. A feature story could be, in this case, would be once you pass this section here. And this year it was Prince who was doing the halftime, which is, God bless his soul there. But you get into a section like sudden impact. Here's a big spread. This is a very important story. And I start designing first. The most important thing for me that I work with my editor. I sit down with my editor, and he tells me what the most important thing is about the story, what they want a reader to come out knowing. Yeah. And then the headline, something that's engaging, bright colors, something that is impactful. That's an important part. It's not just the photography that is special. It's the typography. And then we call this a deck, which is really a subhead. That, in each one of my stories, in actually all the magazines, the deck, the typography, the font is consistent. It can be a different point size depending on the layout, but it's the same family font typography. And the same thing for like the subheads. Oh, I'm sorry, these are what you call captions.
Yeah.
They matter too. In each one of these stories, you see, it might be handled differently, but it's the same font and the same point size. And as you can see, this is a historical piece, so it has pictures that go back into time. So when I photo search, and I use a lot of we have accounts with different websites for different stock images, I have to take into account color correcting, fitting them into the space. My Photoshop knowledge is quite extensive at this point to make it all work out in that way too. So each story is designed. After it's designed, I make PDFs. And that's what these are. Well, actually, these are JPEGs, but they're like this. They're PDFs. They go to John, my editor, and he edits them down even further. Typography, accuracy, editing it down, making it fit the way you want it to fit. And then he sends it to the NFL for them to read and come back with their edits.
Yeah.
So when their edits come in, we make them internally in that regard. So, I go by each story in that regard. This one is another story. So in this magazine, or all of them, it's a mixture of stories about the different football games. It's about the different people that make it happen behind the scenes. It's about, the important thing is, this also covers the week to week. The week to week, for example, week 1, there are 17 weeks of actually the football season. It's 18 now, but it was. So this captures what happened in that week 1,
So it's
for
a
example.
year-long history.
It's a season history.
Season history.
Season history, yes. Because at the end of the 17 weeks, and that's kind of consistent too, you have, like in each one of these, it starts out with the week 2. A little branding system.
Yeah.
And the color palette kind of keeps it consistent. And then when you kind of finish that part out, which continues, it's week 10, I mean, it's a lot of weeks. It continues. And then, of course, here we have the wild card. And that becomes the next part of the season, the wild card. And then following that is a divisional playoffs. So the whole season is kind of like, for someone who loves football, these are keepsakes. This is a championship program that is sold the week before, like now. It's probably right now the Super Bowls, you can buy them in like the CVS's and maybe other stores like that, but they're available for sale. But they're collector's items. The covers, why they're shiny, they're hologram. It's a stadium hologram edition, which is why they have the shimmer. That works like that, which makes them special. And then, of course, the big deal is when you finish the magazine, there's the scouting report. It's the two AFC teams, the two NFC teams. They fight it out. They play it out, which just happened, the week before, to figure out who are the two teams that will go to the Super Bowl. This magazine covers all of that. It goes from the week 1 through the playoffs, the championship games, that special Sunday. And on Friday night of that weekend, my editor, my head publisher, and we fly to Wisconsin. That's where the printing company is. And we get there, around 8 p.m. at night, because it's a time zone difference in Wisconsin. We go right to the plant. The printing company is called Quad Printers, which do a lot of big magazines. They take care of everything so well. And I set up my files. I take what I need. I set up everything I need. My fonts are downloaded. This particular section here, because there's no way you can design from scratch. There's no way you can design from scratch the scouting report. It's a template. And I don't know which are the two teams that are going to be in it. So I have to design for 4 teams.
Yeah.
I have templates for 4 teams. Same as the cover. I don't know which are the 2 logos that will go here. So I have to allow it for 4 different team logo scenarios. So in my mind, this magazine, which is 264 pages, is bigger because I have to have more designed for what ends up in the end. So when we're...
So at the last minute, you picked up the page you're already prepared, guessing.
And then what happens is, based on the game that just happened, like in the championship game, that let's say it's the NFCs that we're playing first, that whoever in my computer, I have a losers folder and a winners folder, and I drag the winners folder for the let's say the NSV into the NFC into that one, and then we start editing the text because we rewrite. John rewrites the story so it's current to what really happened that exact day watching the football game. And if there's any injuries, any photos, anything that happened that is not something you want to highlight in here, I swap out the photo.
When is this actually finished?
That
Before
night.
the game?
Has to be after. That night we go to bed 2, 3, 4 in the morning.
After the Super Bowl is over, you finish the magazine.
No. This is available now for the Super Bowl. This is now. The championship game day Sunday. This earlier part of the magazine is already printed.
Oh, yeah.
This is the signature section that's on hold. So what happens is, as each one of these pages is approved, it goes right into what they call pre-press, and they start putting the pages together of that section. And they start even printing that section. So at 8 o'clock in the morning, that Monday morning, it's printed. They're all printed. They're all bound.
We're talking 8 o'clock the Monday morning, the week before.
No, 2 weeks before.
2 weeks before the actual Super Bowl.
Yeah, which was the day after game day, the championships games, the day after those 2.
So after the final 2 teams are determined, that's when you finish the magazine, so that it is going to be ready for the day
for now. It's on sale now in the stores, and they have to be shipped. You know, you're talking Wisconsin. It goes all over the country, and these are actually sitting on the seats. Whoever goes to the Super Bowl, it's sitting on their seats. What was very special for me is the first year that we did the Super Bowl 37, was the first year that Tom Brady played. And he played the Carolina Panthers. And it was in Reliance Stadium in Houston. I went.
Yeah.
And it was the thrill. We were the design studio in the Boston area. I was new to the company.
Yeah.
John was new to the company, the editor. We were hired for the Super Bowl, for the magazine. The H.O. Zimmet itself was new to the NFL as a client, and we did everything perfect, honestly. We did the best we could, and that's why even to this day, because I've been gone for 12 years, they still do them. They still have them as a client.
Yeah.
But it was very exciting for all, like, the whole thing about New England and Patriots and me working there and Lynn, North Shore, and I mean, it was just a dream come true for a graphic designer like me, to tell you the truth. To tell you the truth. Yep.
So after the Super Bowl business, what are you doing now?
Okay, well, you see, here's an example of, this was a spread. This is an example of a spread. And see how it's very juicy. Of course, the Chiefs are in it again. This is, Super Bowl IV, many years ago. So, okay, when I stayed at H.O. Zimmerman, though, when Super Bowl finished, we would jump right into Baseball Hall of Fame. That was our other big client.
Yeah.
And that was for April. And then after that, we'd jump into Pro Football Hall of Fame, which was for July. And then it was getting ready in, let's say, June for the U.S. Open, which was at the end of August. So football was just part of my season of sports.
So every season you've got a different magazine to produce. This is why you're still working with Lynn.
No, I actually, in 2012, I left. I was there for 10 years. I bought my house up in Marblehead, and it's always good to not stay anywhere too long. It's always good to reinvent yourself. It's always good to keep juicy and alive. And I said to myself, I'm ready for my freelance life. I'm ready to take care of Marblehead, the town. Brookline was where I used to live, but I was since relocated myself. And, I do design work for today. It's Eversource. That's one of my big clients, but that's remote, and so that doesn't matter where you are when it's remote. But I also do a lot of work for, let's say, craft shows. One client of mine, Seaside Blue Creation, she makes beautiful soaps and lotions. I do her design labels, her packaging. My other client, Christine Lucas, who I just love her. She has Boston, what's the name of it? Boston Design and Jewelry Interiors or something like that. Oh, she's going to kill me when I can't remember the name. But anyway, I love what I do for her, and she makes beautiful jewelry. That's what I designed for her. Some people have fabric projects, things that they make that are all sewing and stitching, like Seaside stitching.
So how many different clients do you have?
I probably have at least 10.
Yeah.
And they all keep me busy at the same time.
Well, how do you get a new client?
I don't need to. I have ongoing repeat business, and it's always word of mouth. And my network group that I belong to, I'm always doing work for them.
Yeah.
I'm always doing work for them. Yes. Real estate ranges from real estate to moving agencies, companies. I think as a designer, as long as you know how to problem solve, as long as you work with a grid, as long as you know how typography and fonts and really understand your client's purpose and really meet your deadlines. You got to meet your deadlines. I think it makes a big difference. But it has to be a labor of love. It's not a money-making business when you talk about the graphic design of something. Believe me, it's not. It's really about loving your work and being able to survive it well enough.
Yeah. Well, that's what most jobs are like.
In reality,
we were kidding before the camera started rolling. It's if you're not having fun while you're doing it,
Right.
it was, like I said, it was the best thing that came out of Ben and Jerry's. And I think that's the whole challenge in life, is to find a job that you really like doing. And like you're showing it, you're bubbling over with enthusiasm because you're having fun.
It is. I mean, it starts with a rate card. I mean, everything matters. Branding matters, doesn't it? There should be nothing left behind when it talks about the whole picture of what's important. This goes to the potential advertisers that hopefully, they'll sign up and they'll buy. Yeah. So, Boston Designer Jewelry Imports. That's the name of the jewelry company who I love. I feel so bad I forgot you get flustered with some things, some names that get so long. But I hope people go to the stores and, help support the magazine because it's a local business. Lynn is a lovely little
Still
town.
being done in Lynn?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Hasn't gone away. Yep. There's a new design team there. They're doing a great job. It's a really top-notch small place.
So they got the franchise locked.
Well, I guess every year they revisit the contract. Nothing's a lock, but
You have to win it.
yeah,
Yeah, but they got a good reputation.
they have
so
a really good reputation. Yeah.
Well, it's the old game of why change horses in the middle of the stream. It's working well,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. It's funny. I applied to 3 art schools or 3 nursing schools, and on one day I woke up in March when you figure out where you're going to go. I said, I think I'd rather more fun being in the world of art.
Yeah.
And when I went through the interview it's now called University of the Arts, but went through the doors for my interview, I said, this is where I belong, and I never looked back.
Yeah.
Never looked back.
Yeah.
So.
So now you've got your own company. You got your own clientele. What do you do for fun?
Tennis. I love tennis. I started playing in my late 20s, and it was just ironic that H.O. Zimmern, when I really started my freelance work there, was for the tennis program for the U.S. Open.
Yeah.
Because it was just like kismet. And also I think it's the vitamin of youth. Anything with movement, balance, networking, and like communication, moving forward and backwards, balance. It keeps you young. It's the movement, and it's the social part too. You really. I don't compete anymore. I used to. I don't have. It's too much stress to get there on time. It's very serious. You can't default. You have to be there on time. You have to have enough time for warm-up. So, for me, it's a social style. I guarantee myself once a week playing. Sometimes 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I play. Sometimes more often than that too.
So when are you going to take up pickleball?
You know what? It's too hard on my shoulder because
Really?
the ball's plastic, the paddle's plastic, or no, it's not plastic, but there's no give. A tennis racket has a trampoline, it has springs.
Yeah, it's all strong.
It's soft, and you can when you stand further back, my whole body can go into it. But I don't have the right body frame, and I also have rotator cuff tear, labrum tear, bone spur from too many years of tennis. So I don't have the strength. And when you're playing outdoors with pickleball, the wind is in the way, the sun is in your way. I am a tennis player. I tried pickleball. It's just not my body.
Really?
It's not for my body. There's a lot more injuries from pickleball than there is from tennis.
Oh, yeah, I know. That's what I was asking, because I go to the Y regularly, and there's a running battle between the basketball players and the pickleball players, who gets the court.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
And
they have to share the space.
yeah, it's the same space. And
See, that's the hard thing. Tennis needs more space. So you can't. All these clubs, like the Ys, they have a room for a pool, but they have other courts. But tennis courts, and with COVID, so many of them closed.
Yeah.
I still play up the street at Beverly Sports Tennis Club, which is just I pass this place every where we are, and about once a month, and a few more times in the summer. But it's a shame because I really do feel like the future of a healthy body is whatever the sport is to do it.
Yeah.
And if you keep closing down these clubs and the ones that are open become more expensive, it becomes hard for an everyday person.
Yeah. That got to be a challenge for the Y, especially. That they got undercut by a lot of these, I guess, storefronts that got bought out and got turned into a gymnasium.
Oh.
And so that's another ball game. But so you started off debating between nursing school and art school, and art school won. And
When you're 18, you wake up to that being more fun.
yeah.
But what's funny? I take care of any project, my magazine, like they're patients. I do not forget one little detail. One little something that is wrong, and then your head, other people, they see something wrong. They'll say, what else is wrong? It's so critical to be accurate, even with typography and spelling and punctuation. And, once you see something, the mind, everyone's mind starts thinking, what else?
Yeah,
so I go out of my mind. I'm so careful.
That's the story of Boeing these days. That, oh, we had a problem.
Oh.
Now what other problems you got? Well, they find them, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Like even when I go up to a dinner at a menu, I see typos. I'm like, oh my goodness. Of course, I get over it. I recover.
well, there's a lot of activities that you have to be a perfectionist. You got to get it right because
You know what the secret of life is, though? Like when I graduated art school, I went to a really good art school, and my graphic design department was amazing. My teachers were either graduates of Yale School of Design or from the famous Basel School in Switzerland. Rhode Island School of Design is equivalent to what we have up here. RISD, University of the Arts is the name of my art school now. It became a bigger school than it was, so it's a new name. And but I wasn't robbed of an education. That's important too. My parents at the time, you know, they were happy I was going to college, and I was not going to be a good nurse because I was afraid I might do the wrong medicine mixture of whatever the medicine is, because I'm not good in math. I'm good visual, and I'm a visual learner, but I love the patient care. I can make a bed with a person in it. I can, you know, feed them. I can make the rounds with the doctors. I can do assignments, but to be responsible, you know, for like real medicine.
yeah.
I know I would be the bad person, the wrong person for that. So I lucked out. High school had a really good art department. I don't know what they are like today, but it helped me know that it captured me. It just held my attention. And I loved my classmates. It was a very small art school, and we're still very close. And I'm still in touch with many of them.
Yeah.
But I never looked back. I never looked back.
So you started with a good art school in high school, got to a good art school
In college. And my jobs, and 4 days later, I was working for one of my professors at the University of Pennsylvania in the publications department. And then one of my other teachers, he left teaching, went to work in New York City for a big design firm called Asbach Grosso in Portugal. And they had just redesigned a whole branding logo system for a big store in DC called Woodward and Lothrop, which is like a Macy's. It's like Wanamaker's. It was a Southern. It was Wash. It was a D.C. area, Maryland, Virginia, and I was a corporate graphic designer for 4.5 years. I got the job. I moved from my life that I lived in Philly because I was from South Jersey, so I commuted 2 of my 4 years. So I had friends from high school, friends from college, but I left. I guess I'm a courageous person. I moved down to that D.C. area, and I worked there for 4.5 years. And then I had friends in Boston area, came for a visit, had my portfolio, had 5 interviews, 2 on a Monday, 2 on a Tuesday, 1 Wednesday morning, flew back Wednesday night. The Wednesday morning interview, they had asked me to come back. I came back for my second interview in July, got hired, moved up in August, and the rest was here in Boston. Rest was history.
Well, that's the rest of history. And our half hour is history.
Oh my God, it went so fast. I had the time of my life.
And ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for joining us this evening. And we'll have more of these discussions with the women from WOAMTEC. Stay tuned.